Drew, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited about this topic because a lot of families want to do better. They want to start saving and investing in the future. But to be honest, they are very overwhelmed. So I know you've been with Coastal specifically with their wealth management department, working with them. So thank you for coming on and sharing some of your expertise.
It's my pleasure. I look forward to it.
So I noticed you've been working with Coastal for a bit. How long have you been a team member, and exactly what's your role in that department?
Okay, so I started working with Coastal in the wealth management department in 2005 and started as a financial advisor. And then in 2007, I took on a specific role where I am the director of financial planning. And I basically support our advisors with all the financial planning work that we do for our members here at the credit union.
Great. I know some couples, they feel like, okay, like financial planning and how does that fit in? But what we've noticed, like we've met with a financial planner, it just makes things so much easier, especially when you're talking about something as big as retirement. So I wanted to kind of discuss maybe some conversations you suggest couples have to kind of get the ball rolling about planning for retirement. What should they sit down and chat about first?
Well, I would first say that I think it's age dependent and sort of where you are in the process. If you're just starting out and you're single or just married, 25 to 35, I think the first conversation is really about budgeting and making sure that as a family, you're putting aside 15% of your income for retirement. And if you can start doing that when you first form your household, at that age, you should be very well prepared for retirement. Those folks who are 35 to 50, so a more established family, younger children getting into middle school age children, your goals start to get conflicted. So it gets a bit more challenging. You really start realizing that these kids are actually going to go to college and that you really need to actually have some money saved for them. You're also reaching mid-career, and so you're being pulled in directions for work, which can be challenging. And that requires vacation time to get away for a bit. And as your kids get older, you're starting to enjoy that in vacation time too. So you have these conflicting goals. So it becomes very important at that time to really have a goal-focused financial strategy. And I can tell you what my family does.
Sure, yeah.
We have specific goals. I have a 12-year-old daughter who's going to go to college, no doubt about that. And my wife and I want to retire someday. So we specifically fund those goals. And as we're getting older now, we definitely, and my daughter is having fun with us on vacation for now. So we definitely have some goals for that too, to visit national parks. So we put aside some money specifically for those goals. So I call that like a goal-based budget. So where you're putting that money into the accounts designed for those specific goals. And then you can feel like, well, the rest of the money that you have coming in outside of that is disposable income. And it's really up to managing that on a day-to-day basis to make sure you've got, the bills paid and food on the table. And everything else is really up to you as a family to decide. But you've got your goals paid for effectively. So that's, for that mid-range, middle period. And then age 50 to retirement is really the conversations with the spouse or significant other is really about what do you really want to do in retirement? I think retirement starts to come a little bit more into focus. Where do you want to be? How do you want to spend your time? You really should start having those conversations because that view of your future is going to back into how much money you really need to have set aside to accomplish that. And then hopefully your kids are getting older and you might be becoming an empty nester, no kids in the house, and you can focus a bit more on saving and getting those goals a little bit more in focus and on target. So that's the way I would kind of look at it from an age standpoint, and what the focus should be.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I love that the focus is, first of all, like defining the goals. And we're kind of in the middle of it right now. We're in our later 30s. We have 2 little ones. And so our goals are, like you mentioned, um, going in different directions. 2 little ones, preparing for the future. We're also trying to save up and be wise and enjoy the time we have now with them. So it makes sense to make a plan. And I love that you said, um, even before you paying the bills, you're like those important goals, you've already set aside that money and it's taken care of. I think if you wait to the end of the month or until after everything's been spent, you find out there's not enough or there's nothing at all. So I do appreciate that. So I know a lot of couples, they know what they're supposed to do. They signed up for the 401k at work or the 401(b) or whatever, number and letter combination that's out there. There's so many different accounts. Could we kind of go over the benefits and the differences of the accounts that are typically offered at work, IRAs, and so forth?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Primarily the accounts that you're going to be offered at work
Mm-hmm.
as a benefit. Most people are going to be offered a 401k plan.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you're taking money directly from your paycheck and depositing it into a retirement account. It's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Often there's some sort of an employer match, so your employer is helping you reach your retirement goal. And then there's often an option to do it either pre-tax or after tax.
Mm-hmm.
Most people maybe hear that as the Roth option, is the after-tax options. And basically what you're deciding there is, do you want to pay taxes today on your income,
Mm-hmm.
or do you want to pay taxes later? And really that decision you should decide with working with a CPA or a financial planner
Okay.
to determine which is the best approach for you. I personally just do a 50-50. I do half in my Roth 401k
Mm-hmm.
and I do half in the traditional 401k.
Oh.
So I'm getting some of the tax benefits today and then some of the tax benefits in the future. So the 401k is the primary option for a lot of people. If you work for a nonprofit or a state organization, you'll have the 403b, which
Mm-hmm.
the rules are effectively the same. They're just under a different part of the tax code. They operate very similarly. Less likely to have a Roth option within the 403b. And then there are other various smaller plans if you work for a small company.
Mm-hmm.
But effectively, they're all kind of doing the same thing. They're making it easy for you to choose to invest for your future. And within the plans, then you're going to have choices of investments. Almost every plan these days has what's called a target date mutual fund portfolio, which
Mm-hmm.
effectively is you're deciding, okay, what date or year am I going to retire in the future? If it's 2030, then the portfolio manager is going to invest it in a basket of mutual funds, stocks and bonds that are geared for someone who's retiring in 2030. And over time, it's going to get more conservative, less stocks, more bonds, and that's going to happen automatically for you. So all you have to do is show up for work, do a great job, and continue to save money into the plan, and it should work for you over the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of your 401k plan or outside of the company plan, you're looking at IRAs.
Okay.
And one thing to know is that if you are contributing or participating in a company plan, you are limited to putting money into a traditional IRA account and getting a deduction. So if
Okay.
that's something that if you're interested in saving outside of your 401k plan, it's important that you talk to a CPA or a financial planner to make sure that you're doing the right thing from a tax standpoint and you're not getting in trouble with the IRS. But the Roth IRA is really the IRA that most people should be focusing on if they're contributing to their 401k plans or other work plans. The Roth IRA is a way to save money today where you don't get a tax deduction by contributing today. It still grows tax deferred, meaning you're not going to pay any taxes on the money as it grows. And then when you retire at age 59 and a half or older and you start taking money out of the account, it comes out tax free. So what I encourage a lot of our members to do is to consider having some money savings in the Roth bucket and then in a traditional bucket so that when you hit retirement, you have some tax-free income and some of the income that you're going to have is going to be taxable. And that's going to come from your 401k plan and the traditional IRA.
Okay. So you're trying to coordinate your different accounts to work well to get the tax benefits, both now and in the future.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So that's why it would be great to have an expert, because when we file our taxes, I mean, they're fairly straightforward, but again, I wouldn't know or be familiar unless I'm digging around with contribution limits and any of the requirements if you're contributing, you said, to an employer versus a traditional IRA. So it's great having that expertise advice.
Yeah. One other thing I should mention is with the Roth IRA, you can be limited in how much you can put in there or put in there at all based on your income. So that's at another point where you need to talk to a financial planner or a CPA to learn if you can actually make that contribution.
Yeah, that completely makes sense. I know I've gotten some emails from members in the community, and they had a question. Some of them have decided like childcare is expensive, and at least for a few years, one of them is going to stay at home, either work part-time or just focus on the kids for a few years. But they are worried about like, how is this going to affect our retirement planning? I had saw about spousal IRAs. How would that work? You'd have one spouse that for a few years was taking care of the kids at home, but they still wanted to make sure that their retirement accounts are growing.
Good question. So as a non-working spouse, you can contribute to a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA based on your spouse's earnings. Because everyone needs to have, if you want to contribute to an IRA or a Roth IRA, you have to have earnings in order to make those contributions to qualify. But as a non-working spouse, you can qualify based on your spouse's earnings, as long as the spouse's earnings are more than the contribution you put in, if that makes sense. So if you if your spouse makes, and we see this sometimes with older folks who are kind of semi-retired but have some income, but in order to make a $6,000 Roth contribution, your spouse has to have $6,000 of income.
Makes sense. We want everything above board when it comes to finance. Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's really important. We've kind of been discussing this about the benefits of working with a financial planner. You're a certified financial planner. No, for some couples it seems intimidating, and sometimes they'll tell me like, I want to go, my husband doesn't want to go, or vice versa, because they feel like we're going to be sold something versus actually getting advice. And I'd love to get your take, Drew. What are some signs, good or bad, that couples should look out for when they meet with a financial planner or advisor?
That's a good question. I've been in the business as a financial planner for almost 20 years, and it's changed a lot. And I think it's changing for the better in that more financial advisors are taking a planning approach, which means that when you sit down to meet with them for the first time, they should be talking about your goals, about your family, learning about you and what you are trying to accomplish, what your pain points are, what your concerns are. And then from there, they really should be taking a more personalized approach to figuring out how to solve those problems for you. And I can tell you at Coastal, that is definitely what we do. That's precisely why I have the job that I have, is so that when a member comes in and meets with one of our 7 financial advisors, they know that they're going to be asking them lots of questions, be prepared for that, to learn about them and their family and understand what they're trying to do. And then working with me, I do kind of the work behind the scenes to make sure that we're covering all the bases. We're looking at their tax situation. We're making sure that they have appropriate insurance coverage. We're making sure that their estate plan is complete. They've got a will in place. And then we might start talking about investments and if their investment strategy is appropriate to reach the goals that they've set out for us. And we start with creating a financial plan for them. So if you meet with a financial advisor and they start talking to you about investments right away and products that they can put you in, you should be concerned, honestly, because they haven't learned enough about you to make those recommendations. Where I feel like the advisors here at Coastal and any really good advisor in 2019 should be taking the time to learn more about you before they're making investment recommendations.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I know this has happened to us in the past, and I've heard people back in something that they're scared of talking with advisors. They feel like, well, when I was starting to ask questions, the person felt challenged because they were putting me in these investments and then they were saying, I was the expert. You should trust what I say. You as a financial, planner, and you've seen how your team works and when they meet with the clients, how how do they feel if a client does not push back but ask questions, dig around? Are fine with that, or is that encouraged? How does that work?
Oh, that is definitely encouraged. I mean,
Hmm.
we want people in investments that they're comfortable with, that we together agree upon is going to help them reach their goal. So just as an example, we're going to do a financial plan for somebody, and we're going to realize that, based on their risk tolerance and the goals
Hmm.
that they're trying to accomplish, that they may need only a 4 or 5% rate of return in their investments to reach their objective, whether it's
Yeah.
for college or retirement, but also still feel comfortable about their investments. So if they come back to us and they say, "Hey, I'm not comfortable with what happened with this, whether
Hmm.
the investment didn't perform well or if it lost money during some sort of a correction, and that kept them up at night, then we need to make some changes to that." We're definitely open to that.
Gotcha.
We want,
Hmm.
but we're going to tell them, if we make that adjustment, this is the impact it's going to have on your financial plan over the long term. So we don't have a lot of those conversations, I'll be honest
Hmm.
with you,
Hmm.
because I feel like if you're doing the work up front
Yeah.
to understand someone's goals and their risk tolerance and what they're comfortable owning inside their portfolio, then typically you don't have those conversations. Now, what can happen is people's risk tolerance changes. They think they're more
Hmm.
aggressive than they really are because they've
Yeah.
become complacent and comfortable with what we've had for good 10 years is a rising market. And so a lot of people feel like, they're pretty comfortable with that. We haven't really had a big correction in a while. So, we anticipate people changing their risk tolerance when we go into a recession and there is a
Hmm.
market slump. But, yeah, we definitely want to talk about that for sure.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
we see ourselves as partners with our
Hmm.
members in making investment decisions. We're not telling them what to do. And
Hmm.
that's, in my opinion, that's really another red flag when you're meeting with somebody who's
Hmm.
giving investment advice, is if they're telling you what to do rather than you doing it together, chances are they're putting them in an investment that they're comfortable with, but maybe you're not comfortable
Yeah. I've had quite a few that got taken in with an investment and they couldn't explain what exactly it was. So
with. Yeah.
definitely that's a big red flag. So thank you. I mean, it's good. It's kind of like I see going to a financial advisor, almost going to a doctor. Of course, the doctor is the medical expert. You want them to be like on top of everything, but it really does pay to be very aware of like your health habits, your routines, have that basic knowledge so you can ask the question so you feel comfortable working, like you mentioned, being a team member for your health. So, that's physical health, but also for your financial health. So
Right.
I'm,
We do see
yeah,
ourselves that way as kind of like your financial doctor for sure.
yeah. Well, Drew, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know if you guys are in the area, Triangle area, and you're looking for help with the next steps with your finances, please reach out to Coastal. I'm so glad they're partnering and sponsoring us to talk about these important topics. Coastal Wealth Management Team wants to help you guys live a better life. And so, as Drew mentioned, you guys will be partners with us. Of course, because this is not specific financial advice. We kept it kind of bird's eye view because, as Drew said, you cannot get specific financial advice until you actually get into your specific situation. So, if you want more, please visit Coastal. I'll have the link in the show notes. And thank you again, Drew, for all your help.
My pleasure. Thank you.